Good evening. We're going to go ahead and get started now. Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm Melissa Kibler with accordion, and I'm chair of the college. I'd like to welcome you to the induction ceremony for Class 35 and the presentation of our Distinguished Service Award. We're thrilled to be gathering again in Washington, D.C. at this National Historic Landmark building that houses the Center for American Art and Portraiture. Washington, D.C. has been the traditional location for the college's meeting, and at one time the induction ceremony was held at the Supreme Court, an obviously impressive venue. It was a location that we outgrew, and our move here brought us a new opportunity to celebrate this occasion with the reverence and grandeur that it deserves. Change is an opportunity for growth, and we'll return to that theme throughout the evening. We have over 420 people here tonight, including guests, and we'll be celebrating the induction of 27 new fellows in the class of 35 and 4 from prior classes. I particularly want to welcome our guests, parents, spouses, children, friends, and colleagues. Perhaps this is one of the few windows that you have into your loved ones' careers, one of the few opportunities to see them in their professional element. Or perhaps you've heard one too many calls discussing the intricacies of the bankruptcy code. Either way, I trust that you sense the community and collegiality of our profession, one that is different from other areas of law and finance, and one that draws many of us to dedicate our careers to the restructuring industry. New fellows, this is a very special night, one you'll always remember, a time to sit back, take stock, and celebrate your accomplishments. It's an opportunity for us as fellows to recognize your excellence as leaders in the profession and in your communities. It's an opportunity to mark a milestone and then to begin thinking about the possibilities that lie ahead. And it's an opportunity to share this moment with those who have supported us, encouraged us, sacrificed for us, and believed in us. And that makes this a truly special occasion. I want to acknowledge the contributions of many who made this night possible. Our Board of Regents and all the circuit admissions councils and nominating committees who put in countless hours identifying candidates, considering and vetting nominations, and ultimately selecting the few who would be inducted tonight. Our Distinguished Service Award Committee for their selection of such a deserving recipient. Our past and current college and foundation leadership for their dedicated service. And to all of our fellows who are here to honor our peers tonight. And importantly, to Sherry Bedker, our executive director, and her whole team for their hard work making sure that every detail is planned and executed to perfection, not only this weekend, but every day. I want to pause before proceeding with our ceremony for a special moment of thanks and recognition. Sherry Bedker will be retiring this year after 28 years with the college, 16 as its executive director. The college had 200 fellows when Sherry began her tenure in 1996. It has almost 1,000 today. She has been a fixture on this stage for many years. There are few fellows here who were not welcomed to the college by Sherry, and all have been the beneficiaries of her care, diligence, and good humor as she has supported us as fellows. The college would not be what it is today without Sherry. She prefers the background to the spotlight, but I'm going to actually ask that she stand and join me so we can again show well-deserved appreciation for her many years of service and contributions to the college and foundation. Okay. We will now present the college's Distinguished Service Award to Jamie Sprayregen. The Distinguished Service Award is the college's highest honor. First presented in 1996, the Distinguished Service Award recognizes significant accomplishments of a college fellow in the administration of justice in the bankruptcy and insolvency field. Importantly, I want to emphasize that service aspect of this award, a concept to which, again, we will return later this evening. This award recognizes a fellow who provides distinguished service consistent with the college's goals and purposes over an extended period of time and arising from volunteer activities, rather from services rendered to a client as a paid professional. Introducing Jamie will be Chad Husnick. Chad is also a partner in the restructuring group at Kirkland & Ellis, representing clients in some of the largest and most complex cases today. He's been recognized as a leading lawyer by Chambers, an outstanding restructuring lawyer by Turnaround and Workouts, a 2018 40 Under 40 by ABI, and many other accolades. He's a conferee of the National Bankruptcy Conference and a member of the International Insolvency Institute. He's a lecturer in the law at the University of Chicago and a contributing author for Collier on bankruptcy. It says a lot, both about Jamie and Chad, that Jamie selected him to present this award. As many of you who have attended the ceremony in the past know, presenters are often longtime fellows, senior statesmen in our field, and possibly mentors of the award winner. Chad, instead, is a fellow of the class of 34. So 1 year ago, he was sitting where you are today. I think that Jamie views his greatest accomplishments not as cases or as deals, but as people, those he has been able to help, to teach, and to invest in. Chad is clearly one of these people. Please come and introduce our Distinguished Service Award winner.
Good evening. About 2,400 miles from here tonight in Las Vegas, my favorite musician of all time, Bruce Springsteen, is playing for the first time in 20 years. And for those that know me, my love of Springsteen is absolute. It's the legendary performances with Bruce and the E Street Band. It reminds me of some of my favorite memories as a child growing up with my brothers and my sister, with Mark Kieselstein going to concerts. It presented a very significant conflict for me. A few months ago, when I realized that tonight was the night of the Las Vegas concert, I began searching for a way to go to both. Alas, there's no transcontinental teleportation available. So what did I do? I reached out to Jamie, my trusted advisor, and I said, Jamie, can I get away with going to see Bruce? He responded, it's not a great look, Chad. He was wisely telling me what I already knew. But he added, but if it were me, I would go see the boss. And I thought to myself, yes, I got his blessing. But then about 30 seconds later, he responded with one more text. By the way, I will be speaking. I missed a lot of important clues over the last 20 years of my career, but I got that one immediately. And it dawned on me that I would be seeing the boss tonight, but it would be here in DC as he received the Distinguished Service Award. There's no doubt that Jamie is a titan in our industry. There's many other cliches we could throw out tonight to describe Jamie. But rather than reciting his CV, I want to focus on that Part B of the application that we all hear so much about and we'll hear about more later. I want to talk about why Jamie has this mythical quality to all of those that have worked closely with them and that have been mentored by him. Professor Baird once told me Jamie's one of the few people in the restructuring industry that when you say that one-word name, you know exactly who you're talking about, like Bono or maybe Madonna, Jamie. Jamie has a unique passion for restructuring. It's his drive to push the industry to higher levels of professionalism and sophistication that led him to grow the Kirkland & Ellis restructuring practice from a mere 10 or so lawyers in 1990 to more than 200 attorneys worldwide that it is today. But it wasn't enough for Jamie to put his fingerprints on the American bar, the Kirkland & Ellis team. Instead, he circumnavigated the globe countless times, spreading the gospel of Chapter 11 to the rest of the world. I'm not sure he ever slept. Maybe he didn't. But through the myriad roles in the variety of international insolvency institutions, including Insol International on the executive committee and as its president, the World Bank Insolvency and Creditors' Rights Task Force, Jamie highlighted the globalization of the insolvency practice and advocated for the development of more debtor-centric and value-maximizing insolvency regimes. When the Singapore Commercial Court recently developed and rolled out an overhauled regime for their insolvency practice, Jamie played a key role. As a consultant to the Rules Committee in Singapore, he functioned as an ambassador for the U.S. bankruptcy bar to champion the benefits of Chapter 11 and highlight areas of potential improvement. He didn't do this for himself. He did this because he loves it. He loves the game. And watching him play the game is truly an education, and it is an exhibition of one of the highest art forms. Jamie's drive and passion led him to cram multiple workdays into a single day by mastering multitasking. Everybody's seen Jamie carrying 2 phones. He's famous for the 2 phones, 2 earbuds, 2 calls going on at the same time, and he's talking to you. If you're anything like me and a mere mortal, you're highly skeptical of his ability to pay attention to you when you're talking to him. So picture this. I was a young associate. I walked into Jamie's office to take a board call. He's got 2 calls going on, he's got 3 phones in his office. He's got 2 calls going on in the corner. He's actively engaged in the discussion. I use the 3rd one to dial into the board call. I'm now thinking to myself, Chad, you're running this call because he can't possibly be paying attention to what's going on over here. So I was in charge, and it made me happy. Midway through the call, I hear hey, Chad, you gonna answer that question? And I said, huh? And I turned around, and he's like, take it off mute. And he proceeded to give a 1-minute, clear, concise answer to a director's question. He was paying attention the whole time. I never second-guessed his ability to multitask again. Jamie is distinctively talented and driven, and he doesn't stop at the industry. He pushes people to new heights. He sponsored and mentored many of us, including many in this room. He provides counsel in extraordinarily challenging situations. That's what I found extraordinarily helpful from Jamie. And I remember one in particular. My partner, Josh Sussberg, and I, and Josh is one of the inductees, we had some real dark days on the Toys R Us matter. And on one of the darkest days, Josh and I were sitting on the phone trying to figure out how we were going to inform every single stakeholder in the case that the patient was going to die on the table and that everyone was going to lose in a major, major way. And when we hit rock bottom at the late hour, Sussberg looked up at me and he said, Chad, we need to call the wizard. And we did. We didn't worry about what time it was or where Jamie was. You know, we all know Jamie's omnipresent, so we buzzed him. And of course, the wizard answered the call, as we knew he would. And he worked with Josh and I to formulate a solution. He didn't want to take the spotlight. He just wanted to work through the conversation with us. And ultimately, Josh and I ran that board call the next day. And it was a tough board call, probably the toughest board call of my career. Jamie's legendary deal sense once again put light into the dark. Jamie's active membership in a vast array of industry groups, including Insol International, the International Insolvency Institute, the American Bankruptcy Institute, the American College of Bankruptcy, and the National Bankruptcy Conference, demonstrate and are part of his broader mission to grow the bankruptcy practice and find and nurture upcoming talent. Jamie teaches the next generation, having served as an adjunct professor at Penn Law and Wharton for the last 10 years, and he's taught classes, a variety of classes at the University of Illinois, Northwestern, the University of Chicago, Michigan, and many others. He recently endowed a professorship at the University of Illinois, which role is currently held by another fellow, Professor Ralph Brubaker. Now, I suspect, Jamie wants Professor Brubaker to continue teaching the youth, even though they may disagree at times on what the youth should be taught. One nominator very eloquently captured Jamie's passion. Jamie's goal has always been to build a team of stars, helping each learn, stand on their own, and hoping each will succeed to make him unnecessary. He has the desire for other professionals in the industry, not only at Kirkland, to also succeed. While Jamie will never be unnecessary in the restructuring industry, he has reached his goal of supporting a generation and is now working on a second generation and is pushing all of us in the industry to be successful professionals able to stand on our own. So that is where my introduction of Jamie was supposed to end. But true to Jamie's form, he tossed me a curveball a few days ago when he announced that he was leaving Kirkland & Ellis to join Hilco. I remember the feeling that I had when I was a second-year associate at Kirkland in 2006 when Jamie announced he was leaving Kirkland to go to Goldman Sachs. It was a feeling of dread. I wondered if I was going to have a job the next day, if the Kirkland & Ellis restructuring group was going to implode. It was not a great day. When I heard the news on Tuesday afternoon, I had a very, very different reaction. I smiled. I was on an airplane and I smiled. And it wasn't because I was happy to see Jamie go, no. It was because I knew that Jamie had the confidence in the Kirkland & Ellis restructuring group and the rest of the industry that he would be leaving behind a legacy that would continue, that he was not fearful like I was when he left in 2006. Jamie, your service to the restructuring industry and your clients, including your continued efforts to bring Chapter 11 from Main Street to Wall Street and around the globe, is truly remarkable. It is absolutely no surprise to me, and I suspect to many in this room, that the college chose to honor you with this prestigious award. And so, to everybody, I'm honored to introduce Jamie Sprayregen as the 2024 recipient of the American College of Bankruptcy's Distinguished Service Award.
So about 45 minutes ago, I was getting ready to come over here, and I go to get dressed and take out my suit and my shirt. There was no shirt. So, apologize, but it was either this or an orange shirt or no shirt. So I did the best I could. So bear with me. Maybe I'm not so distinguished. Chad, thanks for the great remarks. Half of them true, and very much appreciated. Thanks to the leadership of ACB, Melissa, Charlie, members of the committee who selected me, although I always go with that Groucho Marx line about never wanting to be a member of a club that would have me as a member. But I did look at the list of previous honorees, and it is really an impressive list, and it's many of whom I've worked with over the years, and the others I've always admired from afar. So it was really an honor to receive this award. I also want to thank my family, who unfortunately was not able to be here tonight with various things going on, for supporting me in everything. As Chad was saying, I tend to run around a lot, both internationally and domestically, but really made me able to do what I've been able to do over the length of my career. My wife, incredibly supportive with the kids when they were younger. Now all three of my kids are married, and actually had the honor of throwing my dad's 90th birthday party last weekend and had everybody there, and already 2 grandkids and 2 more on the way. So that puts things in perspective. So a couple of anecdotes. I don't remember what class I'm in of, Sherry probably knows, of when I was inducted. But my first involvement in ACB was, I was asked to speak at the education program the Saturday after this program. And I remember I went there, and I'm sitting up at the podium getting ready to speak, and whoever the president was at the time, I wish I could remember who it was, came up to me and said, "Oh, looking forward to hearing your remarks. When did you become a fellow?" And I said, "Well, I'm not a fellow." And they said, "Well, only fellows are allowed to speak at the Saturday program." And I said, "Well, you guys invited me to speak." So the next year I was a fellow. The other thing I remember, Melissa mentioned the Supreme Court, where the ceremony was held for many years. I think I know the real reason we're not there anymore. One of the years we were there, I was one of the last to leave, and I'm go to leave and go to the elevator opens up, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg's in the elevator. The only person in the elevator, I'm the only other person going in there. I go in, she looked terrified. And she's trying to melt into the back wall of the elevator, and I say hello to her, and I literally had been watching C-SPAN the night before, and she was doing a commencement speech at Georgetown, and I mentioned it to her. I said, "Great," and she looked horrified that I would mention that. So she didn't respond to that, and then I said, "Your husband and my senior partner, Jack Levin, write a book together." And she looked at me like, "What are you, a stalker?" And the elevator opened up and she ran out. So I think that's why we're not there anymore, but I'm not really sure. In any event, I started practicing in 1985, which actually was an interesting time. I was a summer associate in 1984. And for people who remember these things, the bankruptcy code we have today is called Bankruptcy Code of 1978, but if we call Rich Levin up here, he could give us song and verse on this, but it was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in '82. The order was stayed on fixing it because Congress needed time to act. Congress did what it usually does, which was nothing. Didn't act, they extended the stay. Ultimately, the stay expired and they supposedly fixed it. But I'm not sure how many people remember this, but in 1984, when I was a summer associate, for a very brief period of time, in July 1984, the tenure of all bankruptcy judges in the United States expired. And there were no bankruptcy judges for, I forget how long it was, a week or two. And I remember I'm a summer associate. I get taken over to court, and there's a judge sitting down at the counsel table and not wearing a robe, and everybody's there, and the judge said, "Well, I'm not really a judge at this moment in time, but if I was a judge, here's what I might do. Maybe you guys want to go in the hall and figure it out." And actually, that's what happened. And it was a fascinating time to be part of it. And they did fix it pretty soon after that. But in reality, the way I look at 78 to 82 to 84, and then when I started practice in 85 is when the 78 code was really just starting to come into its own. And it took a little while. And I teach a class at, as Chad mentioned, at Wharton with some of my partners, some of Josh Sussberg's here getting inducted tonight, and with some others. And I always make the point in teaching the class that I look at what was done with that code, and there's a million things that were done, but I always say there's four main things that were really done. The automatic stay, the debtor in possession financing, and market rate compensation for professionals. Now that last one sounds a little crass to talk about money, but I actually think it's pretty important and pretty relevant to everybody in this room, because what that ushered in was prior to that period of time when there was not a market-based compensation system. Given that we're in a capitalistic society, there was a different group of bankruptcy lawyers that practiced, and the people who could get market-based compensation, for the most part, practiced M&A or litigation or something like that. And when all of these things went in, if you step back to 500,000 feet, the way I look at it is, with the debtor in possession, management and a board didn't have to wait until the company was on its death's doorstep to do something, because before then they were basically out of a job because the trustee would come in. They could go to their relationship banks and get debtor in possession financing, and they could hire the professionals they wanted, and professionals were willing to represent them. And I mentioned the automatic stay too. So it really changed the system, and it also, not just the bankruptcy code itself, but I look at it as the extra statutory system grew up around the code too, what I always call the rescue culture. And part of that is because our system, I think, is pretty good, and I think, Chad mentioned a lot of my international work, and if you do everything compared to what, it was, I think it's really good. But it's not perfect, and it's got its issues, and there's still a fundamental discomfort with our debtor in possession system. And so the extra statutory stuff I talk about is the growth of CROs and disinterested directors and all of the other professionals that surround a bankruptcy process. And to me, if you step back, I think that's all a function of the compromises that were done in the code, good compromises, but not free lunch compromises, that resulted in where we are. I always use the Winston Churchill quote where he says, democracy is the worst form of government of all, except for all the others. And debtor in possession is kind of like that. All of these extra statutory things that were built up is, to me, this is who's in this room, is we have our statutory system, and we implement it, and we have obviously all of the judges here that oversee it, and then we have everything we do in the court, but all the stuff we do outside the court too, which to me is incredibly important. And as to the international work, I don't know how many different countries I've been in talking about bankruptcy over the years, but it's definitely in the dozens. And many different countries have adopted parts of our bankruptcy code, some of them more, some less. But in the world of voting with your feet, it's been pretty amazing how many countries have adopted our model, also, or parts of our model, recognizing that no matter how much of our model is adopted, in every country, and this, to me, this is what's interesting about the bankruptcy world, it's not just a set of laws, it's sort of a reflection of your political, socio-economic, cultural values. And even if you wholesale adopted the U.S. bankruptcy code in some country, it would be different, just like it's different in different parts of the United States because of all of those factors. And I think that keeps life interesting, even though some people argue for more homogeneity. With respect to that too, one of the things that's been so interesting to me over time is all of the relationships I've been able to develop with everybody in this, not everybody, but many of the people in this room, and many people around the world. And whether we're on the same side of the table or different side of the table, to me, that's what's really been interesting in life, and just being able to meet so many people. I still remember when I represented Japan Airlines in their restructuring, which was done partially in Japan and in the United States and a number of other places. When I interviewed for the position, the client said, we'd love to hire you, but we need local counsel in 40 countries by Wednesday. It was a Monday. And I said, oh, that's no problem. I'll be able to get that for you. And they said, okay. And I hung up the phone. I said, how am I going to do that? But I pulled out my various contacts lists and directories, and 90% of them I knew somebody, and the other 10% I knew somebody who knew somebody. And that was fun. And actually got it done by Tuesday instead of Wednesday. So it actually was really just a function of having met a lot of people who you learn to trust over the years. Let me talk about, Chad mentioned my partners at Kirkland. Let me talk about that for a moment. First of all, I didn't get to Kirkland in the simplest way. If you walk into my office even yet today, the first thing you'll see is a framed letter, and it's my rejection letter from Kirkland when I tried to get come there out of law school, and I didn't even get a callback. And actually, my senior partner used to come in my office and say, you got to get over that. And I was like, why? So that was my initial thing. And then when I started out, actually one little factual error that you made, Chad, is I think you said we had 10 people when I started in 1990. I think it was way less than that. But whatever we had, it wasn't that many, and obviously I was at the bottom of the totem pole, but we started growing it. I would say for the first few years when it started growing a lot, I was kind of like a one-armed paper hanger. I was probably committing malpractice like 10 times a day. But we were doing kind of the best we could. But over time, we were able to grow it to where Chad described it as today. And it's been really kind of the joy of a lifetime. And Chad stole some of my lines, but that's fine, because it's been great seeing people like Chad and Anoop Sathi, Josh Sussberger getting inducted today. And there's a whole number of my partners that it's been fantastic to see them develop and grow. And as Chad mentioned, I'm going to go on and do something else. And I've always said, when I leave, my job is to go out with a whimper, not a bang. And to me, that's true success in where I feel like the group is being left in great shape. And so it's not only been great developing them as lawyers, but getting them to be friends with them and their families, and that's been, fantastic. One other thing, Chad mentioned the University of Illinois professorship. I was honored to be able to endow with another inductee, Ralph Brubaker, as the professor. He wrote an article shortly after becoming the James H.M. Sprayregen Professor of Law, and it was about non-debtor releases. And it was completely anti to non-debtor releases, a view I have a different position on. And once he wrote that, and I hadn't seen it, I started getting all these calls from people saying, how could you write an article like that is so against non-debtor releases? It seems so different from what your general position is. And I went and looked, and the signature line has his name, but it says the James H.M. Sprayregen Professor of Law. And I said, wow, that's true academic integrity. So that part's been fun also. So, I have to admit, I call this award kind of an old guy award. And I use this line that I stole from somebody else a long time ago, where usually I say it's in connection with a meeting, but I'll say, how long did you spend preparing for today's speech? And the answer is 40 years. And so it's a real honor to get this award. And I will leave it on, as Chad mentioned, I'll be moving on, although not for a little bit yet. I'll leave it with a quote from one of my favorite philosophers, Jim Harbaugh. I'm a Michigan guy, where he says, live every day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. So I recommend that to all of you. Thank you.
And now for our induction ceremony. Being inducted as a fellow of the college is the highest form of honor because it's recognition by your peers. You can't apply, you can't lobby. Instead, through a confidential and highly selective process, those who encounter you in practice, whether on the same side of the table, the same side of the bench, or the same area of practice, determine that you have met the high standards for nomination to the college. Criteria for selection as a fellow of the college include the highest standards of professionalism, ethics, character, integrity, and professional expertise, leadership contributing to the enhancement of bankruptcy and insolvency law and practice, sustained evidence of scholarship, teaching, lecturing, or writing on bankruptcy and insolvency, community service, and commitment to elevating knowledge and understanding of the profession and public respect for the practice. But why do we look for those qualities? And what does being a fellow of the college really mean? Let's start with the mission of the college. The American College of Bankruptcy is an honorary public service association dedicated to enhancing professionalism, scholarship, and service in bankruptcy and insolvency law and practice. Many people, when they think about the college, stop at the word honorary. And there is no question that this is an honor, a milestone, a recognition of all that you've accomplished. But it doesn't end there. And in fact, induction marks the beginning of another avenue in your career. Because we aren't just an honorary association. Let me repeat the beginning of our mission. The American College of Bankruptcy is an honorary public service association. There are many excellent practitioners in our field who are not fellows of the college, but professional expertise was only one of many criteria that I mentioned. What distinguishes fellows is what we refer to in the college as Part B. That's part of our nomination form for new fellows. It's what each of you do to enhance the profession and the communities in which you live and work. The college is comprised of leaders whose actions can have exponential impact as they spread throughout their firms and institutions and through insolvency systems more broadly. What we in this room do can affect hundreds, thousands, even millions of lives. And it's not necessarily the number of people that matters, but the life-changing impact. As restructuring professionals, we affect whether or not people have jobs, whether they can rehabilitate their businesses, whether they can pay their medical expenses or keep their homes. We are uniquely positioned as a public service association to use our collective power to make a difference. And how do we do that in the college? At the core of our mission is professionalism, a commitment to promoting ethical conduct, excellence in practice, and dedication to the highest standards of public service. The restructuring process is often complex and emotionally charged, and clients need professionals who can not only provide legal and financial guidance, but also the highest levels of professionalism and integrity. They need judges who can expertly and impartially decide the matters before them. Professionalism is necessary to uphold the confidence in our insolvency system in the United States and globally. More people encounter our justice system through bankruptcy than any other court. The bankruptcy law provides the framework for resolution of financial distress, whether in or out of court. And our law is often at its best when it drives consensus, but that can only happen in an environment of professional competence and respect. The college fosters this very environment, whether through using our honorary capacity to recognize excellence through admission or awards, facilitating collaboration with other bankruptcy and insolvency associations, engendering collegiality among professionals. By enhancing professionalism, we better serve the needs of the constituents who rely on our insolvency system. Scholarship is a second fundamental element of our mission. The bankruptcy process continues to evolve as our economy, capital markets, and financial systems change. Our bankruptcy law in the United States is now 45 years old, and it looks different and is applied differently than when it was originally drafted. However, its fundamental essence has remained, and the law has been an amazingly adaptable tool for resolving both corporate and individual insolvency. As discussed by Chad and Jamie earlier, our system has also been a model for debtor rehabilitation worldwide. The college plays an important role in the resilience and integrity of our insolvency system through its commitment to scholarship. Our fellows include some of the foremost practitioners and academics in the world. Scholarly discourse at the highest levels engenders thought leadership, an essential element of evolution. Importantly, many of our circuit and other educational programs are outwardly focused on students and the broader restructuring community. We provide hands-on educational opportunities for students, including negotiation skills or moot court coaching. Our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, or DEI committee, recently hosted over 75 students at the Howard University Discovering Restructuring Expertise and Mentorship Symposium, or DREAMS, a first-of-its-kind program focused on providing information to law students about careers in insolvency, cultivating a pipeline of available candidates, and promoting an open dialogue within the insolvency community about better ways to address inclusion. Planning is in the works for the Thurgood Marshall Dreams program this fall and others as well. Through our Distinguished Students program, we select one student from each judicial circuit to attend this meeting as our guests, enabling some of the best and brightest students to establish connectivity with leaders in the profession. Through our ACB Scholars Program, we sponsor judicial externships for students of color and those in underrepresented communities, and also fund their attendance at the National Conference of Bankruptcy Judges. We offer an international bankruptcy course taught by leading professionals in the subject matter that is broadcast to law schools around the country and is also made available to judges, clerks, and others in our community. Another aspect of scholarship is our activity in bankruptcy policy. We identify and analyze policy issues to coordinate with other organizations and enhance the quality and scope of bankruptcy practice. This may involve providing feedback to lawmakers or courts on issues of systemic importance. Examples include supporting increased debt limits to make the streamlined Subchapter 5 bankruptcy available to more small businesses, and filing an amicus brief in cases such as Purdue Pharma to educate the court about those issues about which we believe there is general consensus. We also chronicle the history of the profession with the contribution of important papers, oral histories, and other support for the National Bankruptcy Archives that we maintain at the University of Pennsylvania. This effort has recently been supplemented by the activities of our Senior Fellows Committee, which has collected over 100 stories capturing the transition of practice upon the adoption of the Bankruptcy Code of 1978. And our DEI committee is premiering this weekend its Someone Believed in Me videos, a project where we chronicle fellows with inspiring stories about being mentored throughout their careers. And this project dovetails with the DRIVE program we rolled out last year to facilitate mentoring and interaction among our fellows and diverse mid-level professionals to enhance their careers in the insolvency arena. An important element of our commitment to service is our foundation, the college's charitable arm. We are the largest financial supporter of bankruptcy and insolvency-related pro bono legal service programs in the United States, through grants to legal aid services, helping consumers who could not otherwise afford insolvency advice or other services. And beginning recently, we added grants to pipeline and other programs consistent with our DEI objectives. We celebrated 20 years of giving in 2023 and now give almost $600,000 each year and have given away $5 million since the founding of the foundation. As a final example of our service to the profession, I will note that 2 years ago, as a result of an extensive study by a distinguished commission of our fellows, our board approved resolutions that ingrain DEI in the organizational priorities, membership, and governance of the college and foundation, and added to our mission, promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion within the organization and across the insolvency profession. You can see, even from the brief selected examples I provided tonight, how these changes have created a mindset that is running through every facet of what we do at the college. So, back to our new inductees and the question that we set out to answer. What does being a fellow of the college mean? And why are you here? It means that you're a change maker in our profession. Change maker has been defined as people who can see the patterns around them, identify the problems in any situation, figure out ways to solve the problem, organize fluid teams, lead collective action, and then continually adapt as situations change. This is what we do every day as restructuring professionals. At the college, we don't rest on our laurels. We promote professionalism, seek and share great learnings, and act in a socially responsible manner. This is a call to action. We are a public service association. We have identified and invited you as individuals who share our commitment to these ideals to join us in using our collective power as leaders to make a difference in our industry and in society more broadly. So find your passion and start your journey of service with the college. Earlier this afternoon, Judge Smith said that her induction as a fellow of the college was one of the proudest moments of her career. I hope that you feel the same way tonight. You and your loved ones should be very, very proud that you're here today. I am thrilled to recognize your accomplishments and welcome you into our community of fellows. I'd like to invite Trish Redmond, Chair of the Board of Regents, to share some more information with us about our new inductees from Class 35.
Good evening, new fellows, and welcome. Welcome also to your families, honored guests, and friends. My name's Trish Redmond, and I have had the privilege for the last 2 years to serve as chair of the Board of Regents, getting to look at nominations and evaluate new fellows. On behalf of the Board of Regents, I would give you congratulations and the warmest of welcomes. When the Board of Regents left Washington last spring, we started the process of looking at nominations and choosing you in earnest. Of course, the search for you didn't begin just last spring. The search for you began a long time ago when you started practicing, where people noticed the level of practice and your professionalism. If you thought, and I say this a lot, if you thought you were being stalked, it was not paranoia. You were being stalked. Last year was the first full year when the collaboration between the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee and the Regents and the Circuit Admissions Council was fully implemented. As a result of that, the Circuit Admissions Council cast a wider net. We reached out to different professions, different specialties within professions. We reached out to different geographical areas. We now have underrepresented locations like Pensacola, Indianapolis, Buffalo, New York. We have fellows in those locations. We also came up with a more diverse class. Our class this year, you class 35, are 43% diverse, and you are more than a third, and this is important, under 50. So we are moving the median age of the college in the right direction. Although each of you are different and unique, and your journey here has been following various paths, you have one thing in common. You are the best of the best, and you strive for and achieve excellence in everything you do. When I talk about excellence, I'm not talking about a random act of excellence. What I'm talking about is excellence that's habitual. Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. So I searched for the best way to describe your excellence, and it was right there in front of my eyes. Your supporters, who prepared letters, prepared your nominations, had lots of things to say about you. So I thought, without making you blush, because it won't be attributable to any one person, I'd go through some of the adjectives, the descriptives, and the phrases that described you. So here some of them are. 1, represents the gold standard. That was in a lot of nominations. 2, the work of this particular nominee is typified by extraordinary attention to detail, sophistication and care in analysis, and a calm, quietly confident presentation. Another, we saw again and again, always honest, tough but creative, and professionally pleasant to deal with in any context. Also honest, direct, insightful, thinks outside the box, keen intelligence coupled with graciousness and respect, amazing and creative legal mind, integrity. Here's one we saw. The next 3 I've seen on so many nominations. Makes a difference in people's lives every single day. Next, a leader in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Some of you are leaders in your firms. Some of you are leaders in your communities, and some of you are leaders in professional organizations. But you all embody the college's mission. And the next one is quintessential mentor and role model. I searched through your nominations and found role model in just about every single nomination that some supporter wrote about you. Another one is transformative service and leadership, strategic vision, unfailingly courteous and thoughtful, legend in our profession, and marked for stardom. Hence, you're here tonight. And I could go on forever, but it's enough to say that each of you has all of the qualities that Melissa talked about as being ones that are necessary and criteria for fellowship. And I know your journey here tonight wasn't necessarily easy, that you faced challenges. But in the words of your supporters, you deal with your challenges elegantly, and you turn your challenges into opportunities. You all are mentors, friends, role models, and inspirations. You've also opened doors for so many that wouldn't have had access and opportunity without you. And in Melissa's words, you've changed people's lives and you've made a difference. And so we are so proud to have you be part of our college and to induct you into the college tonight. Welcome and congratulations.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Charlie Beckham. I'm the president of the college from Houston. And the good news is I don't have a speech. But I do have one of the more difficult tasks this evening because I call the names of the inductees up to the stage to be inducted. And for all the inductees, please bear with me because if for some reason you are troubled because I've mispronounced your name, I haven't. It's just the way we say it in Texas. So are we ready to bring the first row up? And as I call your name, come on up on the stage. Adam Back, Lexington, Kentucky. Honorable Janet Baer, Chicago, Illinois. Matthew Barr, New York, New York. Carrie Ann Bassler, Chicago, Illinois. Douglas Bates, Pensacola, Florida. Aaron Brignola, Wilmington, Delaware. Professor Anthony Casey, Chicago, Illinois. Amy Caton, New York, New York. Tiffany Strelo Cobb, Columbus, Ohio. Honorable Rebecca Conley, Charlottesville, Virginia. Stephen Donato, Syracuse, New York. Second row, come on up. Mark Felger, Wynwood, Pennsylvania. Valerie Hamilton, Trenton, New Jersey. Honorable Benjamin Kahn, Greensboro, North Carolina. Honorable Sean Lane, White Plains, New York. Bassam Latif, Houston, Texas. Professor Stefan Countess, Halle, Germany. David Madoff, Foxborough, Massachusetts. Sarah Bowling Mancini, Atlanta, Georgia. DJ Miller, Toronto, Canada. Samuel Newman, Los Angeles, California. Jimmy Parrish, Orlando, Florida. Ian Peck, Dallas, Texas. David Praley Aaron, Wichita, Kansas. Anoop Sathe, Chicago, Illinois. Honorable Brendan Shannon, Wilmington, Delaware. Professor Josie Shi, Beijing, China. Joshua Sussberg, New York, New York. Curtis Tuggle, Cleveland, Ohio. Sherry Lynn Wattenbarger, Kansas City, Missouri. And Sharon Weiss, Santa Monica, California. That concludes our inductees. Let's give them another big hand.